foul stench emanates from this Senate. The disaster of Starkinius is on your heads, each and every one of you. Year after year, you continue to put generals in charge of these legions that persecute this war with the decisiveness of a child. And what do we have to show for it? Pyrrhus marches on to Rome. Well, I, General Maximus Flatulence, will not allow this great city to fall. With or without your vote, I will defend the citizens of Rome and your royal patrician arses. Now, I shall retire to my maniple, which is conveniently placed outside the city gates, and await your vote. Consider carefully. The legions will remember.
Senators of Rome, I come before you once again. I think it's time to pause and look where we are. Take good sound counsel and go forward. We've got Pyrrhus largely where we want him. We know the challenge is that he can choose at this point to go against Capua or go against Rome. How do we decide how to confront that? Well, I tell you how we don't decide to confront it. We don't rashly panic and think that Rome needs radical new directions of these new men. No, I have disagreements with many of our generals over the last few years. Do I think I could have done better? Sure, don't we all? But the important thing is that they acted as true Romans, and they brought us to the brink of victory. Now is not the time to throw it away. Do not listen to these new men. They are dangerous voices. I encourage you to elect me, Lucius Brutus Tomas, and let us bring this victory home.
With Pyrrhus gaining ground and threatening the Roman heartland, the election for consul is increasingly bitter. Josh continues to urge a more offensive strategy, while Tom represents a conservative, defensive-minded approach. This is the penultimate turn in our 5-year campaign, and as you're about to see, it's an explosive one. Rome's consular elections will see an unexpected plot twist, and another great battle will be fought when one of the great cities on the Italian peninsula comes under direct assault. And at the end of it all, we'll rejoin historian Adrian Goldsworthy to discuss siege warfare and why the historical Pyrrhus of Epirus seemed to struggle in this arena. The question is, how will our Pyrrhus fare when the battering rams come out? It's all leading to our biggest turn yet, right now on Little Wars TV. If you've been following our campaign since the beginning, you know that as we played this game last year, our Patreon supporters served as members of the Roman Senate, electing a new consul to lead Rome's war effort each term. The turn 4 election was a bitter one, ending with yet another conservative, defensive-minded choice. Lucius Thomas Brutus won the consulship in 277 BC, leaving Josh and his hawkish supporters spurned yet again. But unlike past consular candidates who have lost elections, Josh was not prepared to take his defeat lying down.
I, General Maximus Flatulence, come before the Senate again. Twice I have run, and twice you have refused me. I am rightfully due to lead this army, but yet you deny me. You refuse to see my ability, but I bring message from someone who does see my talents. I bring a message from Pyrrhus. He is heir to Alexander, master of Sicily and liberator of Magna Graecia. He writes, "Senators of Rome, I come to you not as conqueror or an opponent, but as a beacon of hope for the civilized Greek world. I bid you to join hands with me and end this terrible war. 3 years have brought you nothing but defeat at the hands of your weak, vacillating consuls. I offer steady, tried leadership as the heir to my cousin, Alexander the Great. If enough of you join my court, this war can be over, and we may yet coexist as allies on the Italian peninsula. I give you my solemn vow to release all Roman prisoners I have captured and to shower each of you with titles honors and riches in exchange for your prudent submission. But know this, I shall only extend you my hand once. I beseech you to throw down your swords and pick up my olive branch. There is a place in my court for each and every one of you to serve as my loyal advisors and supplicants. Respectfully, King Pyrrhus. Brothers and fellow citizens, I call you to do the right thing and join with me in King Pyrrhus.
At this point in the campaign, we gave our Patreon supporters the opportunity to join Josh and defect to Pyrrhus. Over 750 senators now had the opportunity to make a personal decision, and Pyrrhus sweetened the offer by offering defectors the chance to win prizes ranging from free copies of rulebooks to a custom-etched Scotch glass. After a one-week lull in the war, 30 senators renounced their allegiance to Rome, fled the Eternal City, and joined Pyrrhus. This led to some rather heated discussion on our Patreon page, and I have to say it was quite a bit of fun reading the comments and conversations.
Great King Pyrrhus, I, Maximus Flatulence, am at your service.
Well, this is a fine surprise, thank you. Now, go, I think we can set you up with some men somewhere. It's nice to meet you.
Man, I really wanted to be part of this campaign. I love the whole idea of doing this. But I lost 2 elections.
And people don't like you. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's the name.
It could be. Although I think when we looked at the comments, when we asked our patrons to comment if they wanted to throw in with me as Pyrrhus, I think that the whole name did stop some people, but not at least one person I know, right?
Yeah, I think we got some really great comments. So I'm going to read one here. This is from Brian Dillo. And he says, tricky. My sympathies lay with the Greek cause and noble Pyrrhus. On the other hand, I'm being asked to throw in with someone named Maximus Flatulence. Very well, I declare for Pyrrhus.
Yeah, see, and I admire that. And actually, I love the idea of having you join the Greek side because I've been having a lot of fun with this, but it has been kind of tough not being able to talk strategy with anyone because they might come up for election and end up going up against me. So having someone else...
And I was on the sidelines just kind of watching this whole thing unfold, and I'm like, man... And then all of a sudden I get a message from Pyrrhus. Hey, why don't you come over to my side? I'm like, this could be interesting.
Absolutely. And you read your favorite comment. One of my favorites was from Mike Sterling, who said, we are offered baubles to forsake our homes and our loyalties to Rome, and my loyalty cannot be bought so cheaply. However, a whiskey glass, that is not a petty bauble, and an offer to be seriously considered. I declare for Pyrrhus. Absolutely.
Hurrah!
So, all right, let's see what damage we can do.
But the opportunity to defect wasn't all fun and games. The stakes in the campaign are real. We had predetermined what would happen if at least 25, 50, or up to 100 senators defected from Rome. In this case, we had 30 defections, a notable number but not crippling to the Roman cause. This earned Pyrrhus a free diplomacy action at the start of turn 4. How will he use his new diplomatic momentum in 277 BC?
In addition to getting the services of a fine commander like yourself here on the peninsula as I'm prepared to march on Rome, I also get to change control of one city that is currently under Roman control, which is your hometown. And what is your hometown again?
Yes, I think my ancestral home of Lucaria would definitely come to your side.
See, now that works really well because I'm starting my armies down around Asculum, and by changing control of Lucaria along the coastline, that allows me to move up the coast without having my supply line cut.
Very good.
And the reason I want to do that is if I can position an army up in Corfinium, that in one turn can move on either Rome or Capua.
It's a very good location.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know what the Roman consul, I don't even remember his name. They're a dime a dozen.
They keep on changing each year. It's a new one.
It's ridiculous. But that's no way to run a system of government, honestly. One semi-divine individual such as myself is really the way to go, at least in my experience. But depending on what this consul does, Might change things up a little bit, but I really like the idea of moving up the eastern coast of the peninsula, threatening both the Eternal City and Capua, and creating a vice that will just leave our opponent frozen and unable to move.
They will be left with a major decision. Should they defend Rome or Capua? And there's really they're going to lose one of those cities.
And when they do, we win.
We will pounce.
The Greeks opened turn 4 of the free diplomacy action, flipping Luceria to neutral, opening a possible route to Rome. As the armies are deployed to start the campaign season, it's immediately clear that Tom is in a tough spot with a need to defend both Rome and Capua. Steve has taken a central position from which he could attack either city, forcing Tom into a reactionary defensive strategy.
Pyrrhus has had some success in his diplomacy at the beginning of this turn due to the defection of the unnamed, as we would put it, that we now have a weaker link on the eastern side of the peninsula. So we need to make sure that the Roman army outside of Rome is prepared to defend that attack. So I think he'll make a feint towards Capua and come up the Roman, or vice versa, but we stand ready to protect both avenues.
Despite the heavy concentration of troops in central Italy, both sides begin the campaign season cautiously. Tom scores an early diplomatic success in Corfinium, shoring up Rome's eastern flank, while the Greeks probe north in the same direction. Like multiple consuls before him, Tom decides to kill some time in Sicily, marching the Carthaginians around the island.
We will march in Sicily again.
Oh, you are out of ideas, aren't you? Okay. March wherever you like.
I'm rolling up Sicily.
Yep, rolling it up.
Steve considers Sicily a sideshow at this point in the war, but Tom's efforts do pay off with a lucky die roll to recapture Lilybum. But Carthaginian siege operations fail to produce results at the walls of Gela. Tom seems content to burn actions in Sicily because he doesn't see the need to move his defensive Roman armies. Given a free hand to operate in Italy, Steve marches his armies to Corfinium and Boviamum, attempting to storm them both with direct assaults. Multiple attempts are repulsed, but the Greeks maintain their sieges and press on.
The good citizens of Corfinium were not swayed by my honeyed words, so instead they will be swayed at the point of the sword. This time I got it. I am on Rome's doorstep.
Even with a large enemy army at Rome's doorstep, the Roman armies patiently remain behind the city walls, frustrating Steve's hopes to lure them into an open field engagement. From Tom's perspective, his passivity in Italy is all part of a grander vision for the turn.
In the meantime, the best move seemed to make some noise in Sicily. We have an army down there under the Carthaginians. I'm now looking at maintaining some activity in Sicily while I wait to see how Pyrrhus's attack develops. The benefit of that is that on the off chance we can besiege Syracuse, it flips the campaign on its head. Very low odds, but at the same time, I'm very constrained with what I can do in Italy right now.
Laying siege to Syracuse?
Laying siege to Syracuse.
Roll a 10. You take it.
Carthaginian efforts to steal back Syracuse end in frustration, and the mighty city walls hold. And all the while, Steve continues gobbling up territory in central Italy, adding the Samnite capital of Boviamum to his empire. With the noose tightening around Rome and Capua, Tom's strategy of focusing on Sicily is looking more and more questionable.
So back over to you. Continuing the tour?
Well, you see my issue.
I do.
Yeah.
That's the issue I created. I knew it would be an issue for you. You move either army, I can move in.
Yeah.
With the Turn 4 campaign season nearing an end, Steve finally decides to make his move. Will it be against Rome or Capua? The answer is Capua. But at this critical moment, with just 2 actions left, Steve rolls a 1, failing his march operation.
I rolled a 1. Of course, when I decide to move on Capua, I fail my march roll. Now, I will be able to roll to march again, and I will likely succeed based on the odds, but losing that first movement roll means that I'm not going to have as much time to build siege equipment, which makes this really actually kind of a difficult task, even if, as I assume, that's the smaller Roman army there. But at this point, all I have left is one march order. I might as well take the shot, and if I get lucky...
At the end of turn 4, Steve takes a shot. This time, his army completes the march to Capua, setting the stage for our first tabletop siege of the war. In our campaign rules, sieges against minor cities are resolved with a simple die roll, but sieges against the great cities of Rome, Capua, and Syracuse are resolved on the table. And once deployed on the board, the Greek army at the gates of Capua looks very formidable indeed. Steve and Josh substantially outnumber the smaller Roman garrison, but their hasty assault means they have precious little siege equipment. Pyrrhus advances against a single gate with his lone battering ram supported by ladders. A withering hail of missile fire from the garrison and the towers rain down on the attackers. One of my favorite aspects of the Age of Hannibal rules is the chapter on siege warfare. We do have a separate video on the channel filmed about 2 years ago explaining how to set up and resolve tabletop sieges. This is a very underserved aspect of ancient warfare in most wargaming rules, so our tutorial video is a good one to watch if you want to learn more. To win a siege assault, the attacker must breach the walls and reach an objective in the middle of the city. This is never an easy task, especially with the scarcity of siege equipment Steve and Josh have for this assault.
That's our big shot now, because by the time we move forces up to pick these ladders up, they're probably going to be picking away at them with the arrows. But if we can get that unit there with the ram successfully to take out that gate, maybe we can start streaming in there. I think that's our only hope, because he's just chewing us up with the range troops from the wall. And I do not want to commit my pikemen to trying to climb ladders. I don't want to commit them until we have breached the wall.
With the great prize of Capua so close, Steve isn't ready to quit the field just yet. The Greeks steel themselves for one final attempt to batter down the gates.
Okay, there is no way that I'm going to be thrusting my pikemen in to try and pick up the ladders. So it really comes down to this one roll to see if I can take out the gate, the one gate that we're approaching, with my last remaining battering ram.
Let's do it.
Oh my God! Another one. Another
It's been
one.
a day like that. It's been a day.
Yeah,
For you.
it's been a whole campaign season.
His fire from the towers is deadly.
Oh, he's been rolling like crazy, and I mean, we can't afford to take these many losses and constantly just be feeding these troops into the meat grinder to pick up the limited siege ladders that we have. It's
Save the army for another day, Pyrrhus.
we'll be ready next year.
Losses among the Greek light troops are heavy. Unwilling to endanger his pikemen to carry on a risky assault, Pyrrhus retreats from the walls of Capua. It was a close call, but Rome can celebrate a victory.
So the campaign season has come to a close. I chose to challenge Pyrrhus's hold on Sicily. It was a long shot, but at the same time it was worth spending those points that I had to march the Carthaginian army and try to besiege Syracuse. We failed in that. The turn ends with a late attack by Pyrrhus against Capua. We had an excellent garrison there, and we were prepared for him. Pyrrhus, I think, calculating his odds and the lateness of the day, decided to save his troops for another campaign turn.
If you watched our Pyrrhus documentary, then you know the historical war never produced a siege against Rome or Capua. In fact, it appears the historical Pyrrhus struggled to find success with siege warfare on mainland Italy. Professor Adrian Goldsworthy has a theory for why this might have been the case.
It's very interesting when you look at Pyrrhus is that Plutarch ignores sieges altogether in the Italian campaign. He talks about them a bit in Sicily, and Pyrrhus does have some success. But the big component that seems to be missing from Pyrrhus's way of warfare is capturing walled cities. And it is the most important component of Philip and Alexander's campaign. You know, that's what means they win the wars rather than just winning some battles. And it's very new with them. I mean, one of Philip II's biggest innovations was this ability to capture cities and not simply blockade them and wait for them to surrender and hope that in the end they give in, or hope that somebody opens the back door for a bribe or for a favour or whatever and lets you in. But basically, if it's treachery or starvation is what's going to get you into a city before this time, Philip changes the rules and Alexander develops that to the huge projects you have in the Siege of Tyre. It's still very difficult and dangerous, but Pyrrhus doesn't seem to have this. One of the problems is with any pattern of warfare is that when someone innovates, creates a new way of doing things, as Philip and Alexander had done, there is inevitably a response. Somebody gets better at capturing cities, therefore people start building better defences to make it harder, and they start preparing more for sieges. So you have a balance. There's also the other factor is probably in Italy in particular, but perhaps in Sicily as well, you can do these sieges in the way that Philip and Alexander did when there's no enemy field army to threaten you. When there is, it's a problem, because you can't just focus on this city. So Pyrrhus maybe has that trouble, but also there's an element in that he never spends too long on any one project. There seems to be this sense of I want to win quickly, otherwise I'll get bored and leave. And sieges inevitably take time, especially of a really big city. So that and the risk, the casualties Alexander suffers at the Siege of Tyre are heavier than in any of the battles. Pyrrhus can't afford to lose too many men. So there's an element, and probably you need not just specialists and professional soldiers, but you need the engineers that, again, we hear about Philip II hiring from all over the Greek world, and they develop torsion artillery and this sort of thing, and new siege towers, and Demetrius even more so, and many of the other successors. So Pyrrhus might not be able to afford that sort of warfare, both in the financial sense, but also in the time and the risk of casualty sense. But it does seem to be the one aspect of military prowess that he lacks, that he doesn't have this capacity.
Your Highness, it was a very good turn.
It was. There was that hope that the gods would be with me and we would take Capua at the end, but alas, the die did not roll in our favor.
No.
Nonetheless, I am still extremely pleased with how things went. We have basically seized the eastern coast of the peninsula. We have the ability at the beginning of the next campaign season to have both of our armies ready to strike Rome and or Capua, bringing this campaign to a close and finally crushing the Romans under my rather fashionable and manly boots.
It was quite an impressive act.
Yes, well, I thank you for your assistance. I mean, it was mostly me, but, it was nice to have you there. And I look forward to next year and what other ridiculous senator decides to step forward and try and challenge me.
They have no one left.
Yes.
Who else could be left?
No men of quality.
Who indeed? With only one turn remaining in our Pyrrhic War, everything is on the line. Now, at the gates of Rome and Capua, can Steve achieve his victory and rewrite history? Or will a savior emerge to bring Rome back from the brink? Join us next week for the exciting final chapter.